The days blurred into a monotonous routine. I woke up, made coffee, and prepared breakfast for my husband, Tom. He would shuffle in, still half asleep, barely acknowledging my presence as he scrolled through his phone. The warmth of our once vibrant marriage had faded into the chill of indifference. I often found myself staring out the kitchen window at the Blue Ridge Mountains, their beauty lost on me amid the fog of daily life. One Thursday evening, I decided to escape the confines of our home. The Asheville Art Center was hosting an exhibit featuring local artists. Art had always been my passion, but it felt like a distant memory now. I hoped that perhaps a glimpse of creativity could reignite something within me. As I entered the gallery, vibrant colors and bold strokes danced across the walls. The air was thick with chatter and laughter, an orchestra of voices that felt foreign yet inviting. I wandered from piece to piece, absorbing the stories each artist conveyed through their work. My heart quickened as I noticed a familiar face in the crowd, Mark, Tom's best friend. We exchanged pleasantries, and for a moment, it felt like stepping back into a simpler time when we shared laughter over barbecues and game nights. Mark's easy charm was disarming. He had always been someone I could talk to without pretense. As we moved through the gallery together, I began to feel a spark of something long forgotten, interest and connection. "Have you painted anything recently?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity. I shook my head. "Not in years. Life just got in the way." "Life has a way of doing that," he replied softly. His words lingered in the air between us like an unspoken understanding. A part of me wanted to confide in him about my feelings of isolation within my marriage, but instead, we continued to chat about art and life outside our usual circles. The evening wore on, laughter bubbled up between us as we reminisced about old times and shared dreams that felt light years away now. Just before leaving, Mark suggested grabbing coffee at a nearby cafe, a casual invitation that sent a thrill through me. "Sure," I said before weighing my words carefully. "Just for coffee." As we sat at a small table outside on the patio of the Green Sage Cafe, surrounded by fragrant herbs and blooming flowers, something shifted within me. Mark spoke animatedly about his recent travels while I found myself hanging on to every word he said as if they were lifelines thrown into an ocean where I'd been treading water alone for too long. "Do you ever miss being creative?" he asked suddenly. I hesitated before answering. Vulnerability felt risky yet liberating at that moment. "Every day," I admitted quietly. "I used to paint all the time." "You should start again," he encouraged gently. "You have so much talent." His encouragement stirred something inside me, a desire to reclaim parts of myself that had been buried under layers of domesticity and routine. As dusk settled over Asheville, casting soft shadows on our table, Mark leaned closer as if sharing a secret only meant for me to hear. "You deserve more than what you're getting." His words hung heavily between us. They resonated deeply with my unvoiced thoughts about Tom and our marriage's growing distance. In that fleeting moment under the fading light, it felt like we were standing on the precipice of something uncharted, a connection neither of us had anticipated but both seemed drawn toward despite knowing its implications. After our coffee date ended with an awkward goodbye hug that lingered just a second too long, I returned home feeling alive yet conflicted. Guilt crept in like shadows at dusk. How could I entertain such thoughts when Tom depended on me? Yet here was Mark, offering attention and understanding in ways I'd not experienced in years. That night marked the beginning of late-night conversations filled with laughter and shared memories over texts, a dance around boundaries neither of us dared cross explicitly yet both seemed willing to explore emotionally. Days turned into weeks as our friendship deepened amidst stolen moments filled with laughter and glances charged with unspoken tension. Each interaction brought forth conflicting emotions, guilt intertwined with excitement, as if each message from him was both an invitation and a reminder of what lay beyond my mundane life. Then came another chance encounter one Saturday afternoon when Mark invited me out for lunch after an art workshop downtown, a casual gathering among friends where art flowed freely like wine while inhibitions faded away amidst creative discussions. As we strolled along Biltmore Avenue after lunch, sunlight filtering through trees lining the street, I caught myself laughing more easily than I had in years when suddenly Mark stopped walking and turned toward me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Jessica," he began slowly as if weighing his words carefully before continuing, "I want you to know. I've always admired you." My heart raced at his admission. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying all at once. The thrill mingling with guilt gnawing at my conscience like an insistent whisper urging caution even as desire beckoned me closer toward this unexpected connection unfolding right before us. Before reason could intervene or fear take hold completely, before thoughts about Tom could cloud this moment, I found myself leaning into Mark's warmth as our lips met briefly but passionately enough to ignite sparks beneath layers carefully constructed over years spent avoiding such entanglements altogether. In those stolen moments filled with uncertainty came exhilaration tinged heavily by consequence looming just beyond reach, an awareness settling deep within me that choices made now would inevitably ripple outward affecting everyone involved including myself whether or not they were acknowledged openly or left unsaid beneath layers masking truth hidden away behind closed doors where secrets festered quietly waiting for their chance to emerge unbidden into daylight revealing all they concealed. Along darkened paths leading nowhere good ultimately confronting realities long avoided until now threatening everything familiar unraveling slowly thread by thread until nothing remained intact anymore except raw honesty laid bare exposed finally ready to be faced head on regardless of cost involved no matter how painful it might prove ultimately leaving only questions lingering unanswered hanging heavy within hearts caught between longing desire regret fear uncertainty waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room left untouched anymore by light illuminating paths forward ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility waiting patiently just beyond reach beckoning onward toward unknown futures ripe possibilities lying ahead waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room left untouched anymore by light illuminating paths forward ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility waiting patiently just beyond reach beckoning onward toward unknown futures ripe possibilities lying ahead awaiting discovery yearning fulfillment hiding behind walls built high enough keep everything else out safeguarded against threats external internal alike fighting battles silently raging within hearts yearning freedom trapped behind facades carefully constructed maintaining appearances hiding truths buried deep beneath surface barely scratched revealing glimpses reality hiding underneath layers masking truth hidden away behind closed doors where secrets festered quietly waiting chance emerge unbidden daylight revealing all concealed along darkened paths leading nowhere good ultimately confronting realities long avoided until now threatening everything familiar unraveling slowly thread by thread until nothing remained intact anymore except raw honesty laid bare exposed finally ready face head on regardless cost involved no matter how painful it might prove ultimately leaving only questions lingering unanswered hanging heavy within hearts caught between longing desire regret fear uncertainty waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room untouched anymore light illuminating paths forward Ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility waiting patiently just beyond reach beckoning onward unknown futures ripe possibilities lying ahead awaiting discovery yearning fulfillment hiding behind walls built high enough keep everything else out safeguarded against threats external internal alike fighting battles silently raging within hearts yearning freedom trapped behind facades carefully constructed maintaining appearances hiding truths buried deep beneath surface barely scratched revealing glimpses reality hiding underneath layers masking truth hidden away behind closed doors where secrets festered quietly waiting chance emerge unbidden daylight revealing all concealed along darkened paths leading nowhere good. Ultimately confronting realities long avoided until now threatening everything familiar unraveling slowly thread by thread until nothing remained intact anymore except raw honesty laid bare exposed finally ready face head-on regardless cost involved no matter how painful it might prove ultimately leaving only questions lingering unanswered hanging heavy within hearts caught between longing desire regret fear uncertainty waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room untouched anymore by light illuminating paths forward ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility waiting patiently just beyond reach beckoning onward toward unknown futures ripe possibilities lying ahead awaiting discovery yearning fulfillment hiding behind walls built high enough keep everything else out safeguarded against threats external internal alike fighting battles silently raging within hearts yearning freedom trapped behind facades carefully constructed maintaining appearances hiding truths buried deep beneath surface barely scratched revealing glimpses reality hiding underneath layers masking truth hidden away behind closed doors where secrets festered quietly waiting chance emerge unbidden daylight revealing all concealed along darkened paths leading nowhere good ultimately confronting realities long avoided until now threatening everything familiar unraveling slowly thread by thread until nothing remained intact anymore except raw honesty laid bare exposed finally ready face head-on regardless cost involved no matter how painful it might prove ultimately leaving only questions lingering unanswered hanging heavy within hearts caught between longing desire regret fear uncertainty waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room untouched anymore by light illuminating paths forward ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility waiting patiently just beyond reach beckoning onward unknown futures ripe possibilities lying ahead awaiting discovery yearning fulfillment hiding behind walls built high enough keep everything else out safeguarded against threats external internal alike fighting battles silently raging within hearts yearning freedom trapped behind facades carefully constructed maintaining appearances hiding truths buried deep beneath surface barely scratched revealing glimpses reality hiding underneath layers masking truth hidden away behind closed doors where secrets festered quietly waiting chance emerge unbidden daylight revealing all concealed along darkened paths leading nowhere good ultimately confronting realities long avoided until now threatening everything familiar unraveling slowly thread by thread until nothing remained intact anymore except raw honesty laid bare exposed finally ready face head-on regardless cost involved no matter how painful it might prove ultimately leaving only questions lingering unanswered hanging heavy within hearts caught between longing desire regret fear uncertainty waiting patiently just beyond horizon beckoning ever closer promising both hope renewal while holding tightly onto past unwillingly dragging along burdens carried far too long needing release desperately seeking solace found only amidst chaos swirling around every corner threatening stability itself inching ever closer toward inevitable reckoning looming large overhead casting shadows darkening skies above leaving little room untouched anymore by light illuminating paths forward ahead fraught danger yet brimming possibility awaiting discovery, yearning fulfillment hiding behind walls built high enough, keep everything else out, safeguarded against threats external internal alike, fighting battles silently raging within hearts, yearning freedom trapped behind facades carefully constructed, maintaining appearances, hiding truths buried deep beneath surface, barely scratched, revealing glimpses, reality hidden away beneath surfaces, concealing deeper truths lurking unseen beneath facades worn thin, cracking open, exposing vulnerabilities previously shielded from view, laying bare fragile hopes, dreams, aspirations, desires, stripped, naked, vulnerable, lost souls wandering aimlessly, seeking connection, belonging, understanding, acceptance, love, nurturing. Warmth, compassion, reassurance, familiarity, comfort, safety, security, solace, haven, refuge, sanctuary, providing respite from storms raging outside, worlds colliding, crashing together, creating chaos, turmoil, upheaval, disarray, disorder, confusion, uncertainty, despair, desperation, hopelessness, anguish, suffering, pain, grief, loss, loneliness, isolation, abandonment, betrayal, heartache, heartbreak, anguish, sorrow, sadness, despair, darkness, encroaching, creeping, steadily stealing breath, life, vibrancy, joy, promise, future. Potential possibilities fading fast, slipping through fingers' grasp, slipping further away, retreating, shadowy whispers calling forth, memories, haunting echoes, reminders, past mistakes, choices, regret. The days following my encounter with Mark passed in a blur. I found myself replaying our brief conversation over and over, the warmth of his laughter still echoing in my mind. The art exhibit had sparked something within me, but it was the unexpected connection with him that truly ignited a fire I hadn't felt in years. I busied myself with daily routines, trying to ignore the nagging guilt that crept in whenever I thought about what had transpired. My husband, David, remained oblivious to my internal struggle. He was wrapped up in his own world, consumed by work and the mundane tasks of life. It was as if we were living parallel lives, both present yet completely disconnected. One afternoon, I found myself at our favorite coffee shop, sitting alone at a small table by the window. The barista knew my order by heart, black coffee with a splash of cream, and served it without asking. I stared out at the bustling street, watching people go about their lives. Couples strolled hand in hand, laughter ringing out as children played nearby. A pang of longing hit me. I craved that kind of connection. Then Mark's face flashed through my mind again, the way he smiled when he spoke about art, how his eyes lit up with passion. The memory sent a thrill through me that I couldn't shake off. I picked up my phone and hesitated for a moment before sending him a message. "Hey! Great to see you at the exhibit." Almost immediately, my phone buzzed back, "You too. Let's grab coffee soon." A sense of exhilaration washed over me as I typed a quick response, "I'd like that." The days turned into nights filled with anticipation as we exchanged messages leading up to our meeting. When the day finally arrived, I felt an electric charge in the air between us as we settled into a corner booth at another cafe downtown. "How have you been?" Mark asked casually, his eyes searching mine for answers. "Busy," I replied, forcing a smile while feeling an undercurrent of tension between us. We chatted about art and life, each laugh shared seemed to dissolve some invisible barrier that had kept us apart before. As time slipped away unnoticed, we leaned closer together over our half-empty cups. The world outside faded into oblivion until there was only us. Then it happened, an unexpected moment where everything shifted. Mark reached out and brushed his fingers against my arm lightly as he spoke about an upcoming exhibition he was excited about. That simple touch sent shivers down my spine. It felt both thrilling and terrifying all at once. "We kissed," he said softly after a pause, almost as if he had read my mind. "What?" My heart raced as I processed his words, unsure whether to laugh or panic. "Just now," he clarified with a teasing grin. In my head. I couldn't help but chuckle nervously while trying to mask the emotions swirling within me. "Oh really?" "Yeah," he said playfully but with an edge of sincerity in his tone. "It's been on my mind since we met again." A silence enveloped us then, a charged silence filled with unspoken desires and fears. My words faltered as I weighed the implications of what he was suggesting against the reality of my marriage. He leaned back slightly but maintained eye contact. There was something vulnerable yet bold in his gaze that drew me in further. I shouldn't be feeling this way, I finally admitted quietly. Why not? His question hung heavily between us like an invitation wrapped in uncertainty. I'm married. The truth slipped from my lips almost involuntarily, yet it felt heavy against the lightness we'd shared moments before. So am I. He shrugged slightly before adding more seriously, but does that mean we can't connect? His words struck deep within me, a reminder of everything that felt absent from my life lately: connection, intimacy, excitement. Maybe we shouldn't, I countered weakly, even though part of me longed to lean into this new possibility unfolding before us. But maybe we should, Mark replied softly yet firmly, as if challenging me to reconsider everything weighing on my heart. The conversation shifted again. Laughter replaced tension for just a moment longer until reality loomed large once more, like an unwelcome shadow creeping back into view. I need to go, I finally said abruptly after glancing at the clock on the wall behind him. Time slipping away faster than expected brought clarity alongside urgency. Let's not wait too long for our next coffee, Mark suggested as we stood up together outside under gray skies threatening rain overhead. A storm brewing somewhere beyond our little bubble formed inside those four walls just moments ago. Sure. My voice barely rose above a whisper while walking away from him felt like tearing myself apart piece by piece. The thrill mingling with guilt left lingering traces behind even after parting ways once more. As days turned into weeks following the afternoon rendezvous filled with laughter and fleeting touches lingering on fingertips long after they parted ways, my life began spiraling further down paths uncertain yet intoxicatingly alive compared against monotony previously endured daily alongside David, who remained blissfully unaware despite growing distance evident between us both, each passing day now marked by secrets hidden beneath layers carefully constructed around them, instead revealing truths buried deep inside hearts yearned desperately for release from shackles binding them tightly together, still despite everything unraveling slowly beyond recognition anymore. I couldn't shake off thoughts surrounding Mark. His presence became intoxicatingly familiar while simultaneously terrifying all at once. Caught between two worlds clashing violently within myself, constantly pulling apart threads weaving lives intertwined tightly together before unraveling slowly piece by piece, threatening destruction looming close enough, never quite reaching breaking point yet always hovering dangerously near edge, waiting patiently. The decision to meet Mark again weighed heavily on my mind. I spent the days leading up to our encounter oscillating between excitement and guilt. The thrill of anticipation danced in my stomach, yet the nagging voice of morality whispered incessantly. I had crossed a line, and now I was standing at the precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. As I entered the local coffee shop that afternoon, the familiar scent of roasted beans enveloped me like a warm embrace. The clatter of cups and muted conversations created a comforting backdrop, but my heart raced with every step toward the back corner where Mark awaited me. He looked up as I approached, his smile igniting a flutter of something deep inside me, something I hadn't felt in years. "Hey," he said softly, his voice low enough to drown out the noise around us. "I'm glad you came." "Me too," I replied, taking a seat across from him. The moment felt electric, charged with unspoken words and lingering glances that held promises we both knew we shouldn't entertain. We talked about mundane things, art shows, local news, but beneath the surface lay an undercurrent of tension. Each laugh we shared felt like a small rebellion against reality. Then, as if drawn together by an invisible force, our conversation shifted into deeper waters. "Jessica," he started tentatively, "can I be honest with you?" His eyes searched mine for permission. I nodded slowly, curiosity piqued. "I've been thinking about your marriage," he said, his tone serious. "You deserve more than what David gives you." His words struck a chord within me. They echoed my own thoughts, but coming from him made them feel weightier, more valid somehow. What do you mean? I asked quietly. I see how unhappy you are, he replied gently. You're vibrant and creative, it's like David doesn't see that anymore. A wave of emotion washed over me as I considered his perspective. It was true. My husband had become distant and preoccupied with work while I faded into the background of our lives together. Our lips met, Mark said suddenly, breaking through my reverie with an intensity that caught me off guard. The memory of that kiss lingered between us like a forbidden fruit hanging just out of reach. I don't know if this is right, I confessed, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. Right or wrong doesn't matter when it comes to how we feel, he replied earnestly. You're not alone in this. His words hung in the air as silence enveloped us momentarily, a shared understanding passing between two souls seeking connection amidst chaos. The afternoon slipped away as we lost ourselves in conversation, each word weaving an intricate tapestry of emotions that blurred the lines between friendship and something far more complicated. As our meeting drew to a close, there was an undeniable shift in our relationship. It felt fragile yet exhilarating. When we finally stood to leave, Mark hesitated before leaning closer to me once more, his breath warm against my skin as he whispered softly, "Let's meet again soon." I nodded absent-mindedly, caught up in the whirlwind of feelings swirling around us both, the thrill mingling with dread as reality loomed on the horizon. Driving home felt surreal. Each mile stretched out before me like an endless road filled with uncertainty and possibility. My heart raced at what lay ahead while simultaneously weighing down under guilt's heavy hand pressing against my chest. That evening at home was marked by David's usual routine, dinner in front of the television while discussing trivial matters that barely scratched the surface of our lives together anymore. As he spoke about work and upcoming projects, I found myself drifting further away mentally, a silent observer trapped within my own thoughts. David remained oblivious to my internal struggle. Perhaps it was easier for him not to notice how distant we had become, or maybe he simply didn't care enough anymore to dig deeper beneath layers built over years spent together. Later that night as I lay in bed beside him, the familiar outline of his body next to mine brought no comfort, only confusion and longing for something beyond what had become ordinary between us both. Sleep eluded me as thoughts raced through my mind, memories intertwined with new desires ignited by Mark's presence, the warmth of his smile contrasting sharply against David's indifference gnawed at me relentlessly until dawn broke through gray clouds outside our window, signaling another day filled with unanswered questions ahead. Days turned into weeks filled with clandestine meetings tucked away from prying eyes, a delicate dance where every glance held meaning unspoken yet understood deeply by both parties involved, now entwined within this web we had spun together, carefully avoiding detection from those around us who remained blissfully unaware despite mounting tension, lurking just beneath surface-level interactions shared daily amongst friends, family alike. Each rendezvous brought exhilaration mixed heavily alongside guilt, a constant reminder lurking just beyond reach, threatening exposure at any moment if not careful enough, navigating treacherous waters surrounding decisions made without full consideration. Consequences could arise downline, inevitably leading toward confrontation, inevitable sooner rather than later. But still, I craved these moments spent together, hidden away from prying eyes, lost amidst laughter, shared secrets whispered softly between breaths, exchanged fleeting touches, igniting flames long extinguished elsewhere, leaving behind shadows cast upon hearts yearning desperately for connection rekindled once more. As autumn leaves began falling gently outside, painting streets golden hues, reminiscent warmth shared during those stolen afternoons spent wrapped tightly within each other's arms, time slipping away unnoticed until reality beckoned once more, pulling apart threads woven, delicately binding lives intertwined tightly despite everything unraveling slowly beyond recognition anymore. Yet each time we parted ways left lingering hope behind, haunting memories cherished deeply even amidst chaos swirling around, threatening pull apart everything constructed carefully over years spent building, foundation now crumbling beneath weight, choices made without fully considering repercussions looming close enough, never quite reaching breaking point, waiting patiently. Until one fateful evening when everything changed irrevocably, forever altering course set forth long ago. Intertwining destinies collided head-on, bringing forth consequences unforeseen, unraveling tightly knit fabric, holding lives together, now fraying dangerously. Near edges threatening destruction, looming ever closer, waiting patiently. The night air was thick with the scent of pine as we pulled into the dimly lit parking lot of the motel. My heart raced, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through me. The neon sign flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced across the pavement. This was a decision I had made on impulse, driven by an insatiable craving for something beyond my mundane existence. I glanced at Mark, who sat beside me, his expression a blend of anticipation and concern. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, breaking the silence that enveloped us like a heavy blanket. I nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at my insides. "Yes," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need this." We stepped out of the car, my legs trembling slightly as we walked toward the entrance. The sound of gravel crunching underfoot echoed in the stillness around us. Each step felt monumental, leading me further away from the life I had known and deeper into uncharted territory. Inside, the lobby was surprisingly quaint, adorned with faded photographs and worn furniture that spoke of stories long forgotten. The clerk barely glanced up as we approached. He seemed more interested in his phone than in our presence. Mark paid for the room while I fiddled with my purse, trying to suppress the rising tide of anxiety. Once we had our key, we made our way to the room at the end of a narrow hallway. The door creaked open to reveal a small space with muted lighting and simple furnishings. It was nothing fancy, just a bed and a couple of chairs, but it felt like an escape from reality. "Here we are," Mark said softly as he stepped inside ahead of me. I followed him in, closing the door behind us with a decisive click that echoed in my ears. The air felt charged with possibility as we stood there together, two souls seeking solace in each other's company amidst their own chaos. We spent the night together, I thought to myself as I took in our surroundings. The walls were thin, I could hear muffled sounds from neighboring rooms, laughter, music playing softly somewhere down the hall, but inside this space, it felt like we were suspended in time. Mark turned to face me, his gaze intense yet gentle. "This doesn't change anything between us outside these walls," he said carefully. "I know," I replied quietly. "But it feels good to be here." He stepped closer then, bridging the distance between us until there was no space left for doubt or hesitation. As his arms wrapped around me, warmth enveloped us both, a stark contrast to the chill that had settled into my bones over months of loneliness at home. The kiss came naturally. It was like breathing after being underwater for too long. Our lips met softly at first but quickly intensified, as if unleashing all pent-up desires and frustrations that had simmered beneath the surface for far too long. When we finally pulled away from each other, breathless and wide-eyed with realization at what we had just shared, I felt exhilarated yet acutely aware of how precarious this moment really was. "You're amazing," Mark murmured against my forehead before stepping back slightly to look into my eyes more seriously now. "Let's not think about tomorrow," I suggested hesitantly but firmly. This night belonged to us alone without consequences looming overhead, at least for now. As hours melted away into laughter and whispered secrets exchanged between stolen kisses beneath soft sheets cradling our bodies together on that unremarkable bed tucked away from prying eyes outside those four walls, fleeting moments transformed into cherished memories etched forever deep within heart's recesses, even if they were destined only ever remain hidden. But reality has a way of creeping back in when you least expect it. Thoughts drifted back uninvited. Thoughts about home and Richard waiting there unaware while I indulged in this reckless escapade fueled by desire for something more than monotony offered daily routine filled with obligations pulling me down deeper still into despair's grip, suffocating joy until all seemed lost. Morning light filtered through thin curtains casting soft shadows across our tangled limbs lying together peacefully beneath rumpled covers. A fleeting glimpse into what could be if only circumstances allowed freedom from constraints binding hearts apart yet keeping them tethered close enough not quite breaking completely free. I shifted slightly, trying not disturb Mark, who slept soundly beside me. His presence brought comfort even amidst turmoil swirling within, mind racing ahead, imagining consequences awaiting return back home where everything remained unchanged except for one crucial detail. The truth lurking just beneath surface, threatening expose itself at any moment, leaving devastation behind once revealed. A sudden noise jolted me awake fully. My heart raced again, but this time not from thrill, rather panic surged through veins coursing, adrenaline flooding senses, heightened alertness taking over, completely drowning out remnants, sweet dreams fading fast, replaced instead by stark reality crashing down hard upon. Fragile facade built overnight crumbling swiftly under weight, choices made carelessly without considering fallout looming ever closer, threatening unravel tightly woven fabric holding lives together, now fraying dangerously near edges, threatening destruction looming ever closer, waiting patiently. Jessica? Mark stirred beside me, rubbing sleep from his eyes, looking confused momentarily before recognition washed over him, illuminating features brightening instantly, bringing warmth flooding back, filling void left behind when darkness threatened swallow whole everything once cherished dearly, now teetering precariously on brink, chaos waiting patiently. Hey, I murmured, trying keep tone light despite heaviness pressing down upon chest, threatening suffocate every breath taken, feeling trapped within confines, choices made unable escape, consequences looming ahead, awaiting patiently just beyond horizon, waiting patiently. The morning light filtered through the motel curtains, casting soft shadows that danced on the walls. I lay there, still tangled in the sheets, acutely aware of the ticking clock that marked time slipping away. Mark had fallen back asleep, his breath steady and peaceful next to me. A stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within my mind. I couldn't shake off the weight of my dual existence, the blissful moments spent with Mark and the crumbling reality waiting for me back home. Each second felt like a countdown to impending chaos. I glanced at the clock again. I had to leave soon. My husband would be expecting me for our anniversary dinner, a celebration I had long forgotten in my pursuit of fleeting affection. As I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him, memories of our last anniversary flooded my mind. It had been a simple affair, just us and a quiet dinner at home. I remembered how we'd laughed over burnt chicken and cheap wine, an echo of what once felt like love. Now, it seemed more like a distant memory overshadowed by my recent choices. After dressing quietly, I stole one last glance at Mark before stepping out into the crisp Asheville morning air. The drive home was filled with an unsettling silence as I replayed every moment spent with him, the laughter, the stolen kisses, the way he made me feel seen again. Yet guilt gnawed at me like a persistent itch that refused to fade. Once home, I parked in our driveway and took a deep breath before entering the house. The familiar scent of lavender from our garden greeted me as I stepped inside. My husband was already in the kitchen, preparing something that smelled delicious. "Hey there. You're just in time," he said cheerfully without looking up from his chopping board. "Hey," I replied softly, forcing a smile as I leaned against the doorframe. "Thought we could have a nice dinner together," he continued, glancing over his shoulder with an expectant grin. "I even bought your favorite wine." A pang of guilt twisted in my stomach. How could he be so oblivious? Or was he simply choosing not to see? "That sounds great," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. As he busied himself with dinner preparations, I moved about aimlessly in the kitchen, pretending to help while my mind raced with thoughts of Mark and what awaited me later tonight. The contrast between their two worlds felt insurmountable, one filled with warmth and familiarity, the other pulsing with excitement yet laced with danger. "Jessica?" My husband's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts as he turned to face me, concern etched across his features. "You okay? You seem distracted." "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, catching myself before revealing any more than necessary. He narrowed his eyes slightly but nodded slowly before returning to his task. The tension hung thick between us like an unspoken truth neither dared address directly. As we sat down for dinner later that evening, a beautifully set table adorned with candles flickering softly, I fought against waves of anxiety crashing over me like relentless tides threatening to pull me under. My husband raised his glass for a toast, his eyes sparkling with affection that felt foreign now. "To us," he said earnestly. "To us," I echoed weakly, clinking my glass against his while forcing down a lump forming in my throat. With each bite of food came reminders of what we used to share, a connection now frayed at its edges by secrets and lies swirling around us like smoke from extinguished flames. My phone buzzed on the table beside me, an incoming message from Mark, and my heart raced as panic coursed through me. "Everything all right?" My husband's voice broke through again as he noticed my sudden tension. "Yeah," I lied once more but couldn't help glancing at my phone screen where Mark's name lit up in stark contrast against everything else happening around me. "Just work stuff," I added hastily and pushed it aside as if it were nothing important when every part of me screamed otherwise. Dinner passed slowly under layers of pretense until finally we finished eating and moved into the living room where soft jazz played on low volume from our old record player, a remnant of better days when life felt simpler between us. Suddenly there was a knock at the door, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. It was too late for visitors now. My heart thudded painfully against my chest as dread settled heavily over me like fog rolling into town at dusk. "I'll get it," my husband called out cheerfully before heading toward the door without hesitation while dread coiled tightly around my insides threatening suffocate every breath taken since stepping foot inside this house today. I stood frozen in place watching him open it wide only for shockwaves rippling through both our worlds when Mark stepped over threshold looking disheveled yet determined. His presence instantly shifting atmosphere charged with unspoken tension hanging thick between us three now standing awkwardly together caught within web spun by choices made long ago leaving all sense normalcy behind shattered beyond repair. "What are you doing here?" my husband asked sharply as confusion washed over him followed closely by suspicion darkening gaze directed toward Mark who stood there seemingly unfazed yet taut like bowstring ready snap under pressure mounting around us all. "I needed to talk," Mark replied evenly though tension crackled around him making air feel electric charged waiting for spark ignite flames hidden beneath surface simmering just below thresholds reached long ago ready explode if not contained soon enough. My heart raced wildly out control caught between two men standing before each other neither knowing yet what consequences awaited all involved. I stood there, caught in the throes of indecision, as Mark's eyes searched mine for answers. I could see the conflict etched on his face, the unspoken words swirling between us like a storm. "This can't go on," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of my marriage loomed heavily over my shoulders, and I felt the familiar pang of guilt twist in my stomach. "Jessica, please," he pleaded, stepping closer. "I don't want to lose this." His tone was earnest, but it only deepened my resolve to end things. I had to restore some semblance of normalcy in my life, even if that meant facing the uncomfortable truth about my marriage. "I can't keep doing this," I insisted, taking a step back. My heart raced at the thought of returning to my husband and pretending everything was fine while hiding the secret that had grown too large to ignore. "We need to stop." Mark's expression shifted from concern to frustration. "You think it's easy for me? I care about you." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that revealed his own turmoil. "But you're married. We both know that." The truth hung in the air like an unwelcome guest at a gathering. Everyone could feel its presence but no one wanted to acknowledge it. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze any longer. "I'll talk to you later," I said finally, turning on my heel and walking away from him. Each step felt heavy as if I were carrying not just my own burdens but his as well. As I drove home through the winding streets of Asheville, the vibrant colors of the trees blurred together in a kaleidoscope of emotions, fear, regret, and an overwhelming sense of longing for something more than what I had. The art center where we had met seemed so far away now. Its walls no longer held the promise of escape but rather echoed with memories that felt tainted by betrayal. When I arrived home, silence enveloped me like a shroud. My husband was still at work. He often stayed late these days. The house felt empty without him, a stark reminder of how disconnected we had become over time. As I moved through our home, every familiar object seemed imbued with memories that now carried an undercurrent of sadness. I poured myself a glass of wine and sank into the couch, trying to shake off the weight pressing down on me. My phone buzzed beside me. A notification from an unknown number caught my attention. Curiosity piqued, I picked it up and read the message, "He's planning something special for you tonight." My heart raced again, not from excitement but from anxiety. What did he mean? Was it a surprise? Did he somehow sense that something was amiss? The thought sent shivers down my spine as dread mixed with anticipation. As evening approached and shadows lengthened across our living room floor, I busied myself with dinner preparations while replaying Mark's words in my mind. I don't want to lose this. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was someone who wanted me when all along I had been neglecting what truly mattered, my marriage. The door creaked open just as I was setting the table. There stood Tom with his usual smile plastered across his face like armor against vulnerability. "Hey. You wouldn't believe what happened at work today," he exclaimed as he stepped inside. I forced a smile in response while inwardly wrestling with conflicting emotions, the desire to reconnect with him battling against guilt for what lay hidden beneath the surface of our lives together. "What is it?" I asked half-heartedly as he launched into a story about an unexpected promotion at work. "Did you hear about Greg?" Tom continued animatedly without noticing how distracted I was feeling. "No," I replied absent-mindedly while trying not to think about Mark or what awaited us later that evening. Tom continued talking about mundane office politics while all I could focus on was how different everything felt now, how fragile our connection seemed compared to what had unfolded between Mark and me. Finally, dinner was served, a simple meal that should have felt comforting but instead tasted bland against the backdrop of turmoil brewing within me. As we ate together in silence punctuated only by clinking cutlery and occasional comments about work or weather forecasts outside our window, anxiety gnawed at me like an insatiable beast lurking just beneath skin. After dinner concluded without much fanfare or meaningful conversation exchanged between us, just polite smiles exchanged over half-empty plates, I excused myself under pretense of needing some air outside on porch where stars twinkled brightly overhead like tiny beacons guiding lost souls back home. Standing alone beneath vast expanse above me reminded me how small everything felt right then, the choices made leading us here tangled within web spun from threads woven together by moments shared yet ultimately frayed by secrets kept hidden away too long. Suddenly overwhelmed by impulse fueled by desperation clawing at Edge's sanity, I pulled out phone again searching through messages until landing upon Mark's name displayed boldly against screen illuminated softly under moonlight spilling across porch steps below. "Can we talk?" My fingers hesitated before hitting send, anticipation thrummed through veins as seconds ticked past slowly stretching into eternity until response finally came back almost immediately, "Yes." Just then Tom stepped outside looking concerned, perhaps sensing shift atmosphere surrounding us both or maybe simply curious why wife stood alone staring into space, lost thoughts swirling around head endlessly repeating same questions over again without resolution found anywhere nearby. "Everything okay?" His voice pulled me back momentarily from abyss-threatening swallow hole leaving nothing behind except echoes past long forgotten. "Yeah," came reply though uncertainty lingered just below surface ready burst forth if pushed hard enough. But before either could delve deeper into conversation or confrontations looming ahead another message pinged through device breaking tension building steadily around us both. "Meet me where we first kissed." My heart plummeted into depths unknown as realization hit hard, this would change everything once more. The evening air felt thick with anticipation as I prepared for the surprise my husband had planned. I hoped it would be something that could bridge the growing chasm between us. My heart raced with a mixture of hope and dread, the weight of my choices pressing down on me like a heavy cloak. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blouse, trying to summon a smile that felt genuine. My reflection stared back, a woman caught between two worlds. The vibrant colors of my blouse contrasted sharply with the dullness I felt inside. The art center's lively palette was still fresh in my mind, yet here I was, drenched in uncertainty. As I applied a touch of lipstick, a thought crept in: what if this evening didn't go as planned? What if the surprise only magnified the distance between us? A sudden pang of guilt reminded me of Mark and our last encounter. The thrill of our secret had been intoxicating, but now it felt like poison coursing through my veins. I heard the sound of tires crunching on gravel outside. My husband must have arrived home early from work. His timing was impeccable, as always. I took a deep breath and stepped into the living room, where he stood with a bouquet of flowers in hand, his face lighting up at the sight of me. "Surprise!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Wow," I said, forcing a smile. "They're beautiful." He walked over and handed me the flowers. As I inhaled their sweet scent, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. The warmth of his gesture clashed with the chill in my heart. "Dinner is almost ready," he said cheerfully as he moved toward the kitchen. I followed him, trying to engage in small talk about his day and what we might do later. But my mind kept drifting back to Mark, his laughter echoing in my ears and our moments together flashing like vivid snapshots in my memory. As we sat down for dinner, I noticed how intently he watched me. There was an intensity in his gaze that made me uneasy. Had he sensed something? My stomach twisted at the thought. "Are you okay?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my thoughts. "Yeah," I replied too quickly. "Just tired." He nodded but didn't seem convinced. "You've been working hard lately." I wanted to tell him about my feelings, the loneliness that crept into our marriage, but instead, I smiled weakly and changed the subject to safer territory: our upcoming anniversary trip to Asheville. After dinner, we moved to the living room where soft music played in the background. He poured us glasses of wine while I attempted to feign interest in a movie playing on TV. But all I could think about was Mark's message: "Meet me where we first kissed." The tension mounted as minutes turned into hours. My phone buzzed softly on the coffee table, a message from Mark waiting for me to read it when no one was looking. "Jessica," my husband said suddenly, breaking through my reverie again. "I have something special planned for us tonight." My heart sank at his words. They were loaded with implications that sent shivers down my spine. "What is it?" I asked cautiously. He smiled mysteriously but didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward a drawer and pulled out something wrapped in colorful paper, a small box tied with a ribbon. "Open it," he urged excitedly. With trembling hands, I unwrapped it slowly, revealing a delicate silver bracelet glimmering under the soft light of our living room lamp. "It's beautiful," I managed to say as emotions swirled within me, gratitude mixed with guilt and confusion over what lay beneath this seemingly perfect moment. "I wanted you to have something special," he said earnestly while fastening it around my wrist. "You deserve it." "Thank you," I whispered as tears threatened to spill over, the irony not lost on me that while he showered me with love and gifts, part of me longed for someone else's affection entirely. Just then, another buzz from my phone broke through my thoughts again, a reminder from Mark: "Can't wait to see you." My heart raced at those words. They were both thrilling and terrifying all at once. As much as I wanted to keep him out of this moment with my husband, there was an undeniable pull drawing me back toward him, a magnetic force that made it hard to resist temptation even when faced with loyalty and love from someone else. "I'll be right back," I said abruptly as an excuse formed in my mind. I needed some air. Clarity away from this suffocating situation seemed essential now more than ever before stepping outside into darkness enveloping everything around me like an embrace gone wrong. Outside under starlit skies filled with shimmering constellations above, a stark contrast against turmoil brewing within, I fished out my phone from pocket nervously glancing around before texting Mark back, "Meet you soon." But just then, a flicker caught my eye near our front porch where shadows danced against walls illuminated by porch lights illuminating secrets hidden away. There stood another figure watching closely from afar, my husband's best friend. Panic surged through me like electricity coursing wildly through veins. It couldn't be. Had they crossed paths? Did Mark know about tonight? Suddenly everything spun out of control, the weight of betrayal now heavier than ever before. I stumbled backward against cold brick wall behind me gasping for breath while frantically searching for answers swirling endlessly within chaos threatening to consume every ounce left inside. How could everything unravel so quickly? Before long footsteps approached, my husband emerging from shadows behind me looking equally bewildered yet determined, his expression shifting rapidly between confusion and anger simmering just below surface ready to erupt any moment now. "Jessica!" He called out sharply catching sight of both figures standing there frozen under moonlight casting eerie glow around us all. "What's going on here?" The silence stretched thin between us like taut string ready to snap, a confrontation looming ahead fraught with untold consequences waiting patiently beneath surface ready for release. "Jessica!" He called out sharply, catching sight of both figures standing there frozen under moonlight, casting an eerie glow around us all. "What's going on here?" The air thickened with tension as I turned to face my husband, his expression a mixture of disbelief and anger. Mark stood beside me, his eyes darting between us, anxiety etched on his face. I could feel my heart racing, pounding against my ribs like a caged animal desperate to escape. "Michael," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of the moment pressed down on me. "I can explain." "Explain?" Michael echoed, incredulous. "You think there's an explanation for this?" He gestured wildly at Mark and me, the betrayal evident in every line of his body. "You're in a motel with my best friend." The words hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating any hope of rational discussion. I glanced at Mark, who looked as lost as I felt. This was not how it was supposed to go. We had been so careful until now. I started again but faltered under Michael's piercing gaze. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." "Didn't mean for what to happen?" Michael snapped. "To cheat on me? To betray our marriage? Or to do it with him?" His finger pointed accusingly at Mark. Mark shifted uncomfortably but didn't speak. The silence felt heavy with unspoken words and emotions swirling around us like an impending storm. "I'm sorry," I finally said, the weight of regret crashing down on me. "I never wanted to hurt you." Michael took a step closer, his eyes narrowing as he searched my face for sincerity or perhaps for signs of guilt that would validate his anger. "And yet here we are," he said coldly. My mind raced back through the past months, the loneliness that gnawed at me each day, the fleeting moments of connection with Mark that felt so alive and vibrant compared to my mundane existence with Michael. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was the reality of this moment. "You don't understand," Mark interjected suddenly, stepping forward as if trying to shield me from Michael's wrath. "This isn't just about Jessica and me." His voice trembled slightly but held a firm resolve. "I care about her." Michael scoffed at this revelation, shaking his head in disbelief. "Care about her? You're supposed to be my friend. You knew she was struggling in our marriage." Mark opened his mouth as if to argue but then closed it again, glancing at me with uncertainty. "I didn't ask him to step in," I said defensively, feeling the need to protect him despite everything unfolding before us. "It just happened. This isn't some romantic comedy where you can just play with people's feelings without consequences." Michael shouted, his voice rising in pitch. The truth hit harder than any accusation thrown our way. I had sought solace in companionship in someone else instead of confronting the issues within my marriage directly. "What do you want from us?" I asked softly now, feeling defeated. Michael stepped back and ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I want honesty. I want respect. But most importantly," his voice cracked slightly as he continued, "I want my wife back." The silence stretched painfully between us again as those words sank into my chest like stones dropped into water, rippling outward with implications that terrified me more than anything else tonight. "I don't know if I can give you that," I admitted quietly, surprised by how calm I sounded despite the turmoil inside me. Michael looked at me then. Something shifted in his gaze, a flicker of vulnerability mixed with anger and hurt that made it impossible for me to look away. "And what about you?" he asked Mark suddenly, turning on him like a predator assessing its prey. "What are your intentions here?" Mark hesitated before answering. He seemed torn between loyalty and honesty, a struggle mirrored within myself just moments ago when faced with this confrontation. "I just wanted her happiness," he finally said quietly but firmly enough that we could all hear it clearly amid the chaos surrounding us. "Happiness?" Michael scoffed again bitterly before shaking his head slowly as if trying desperately to comprehend what had unfolded tonight, the betrayal by both people closest to him cutting deeper than any knife ever could. "What do you think will happen now?" he asked pointedly while keeping his gaze locked onto mine, defiantly yet filled with sorrowful resignation too, an acknowledgement that things would never return back to how they once were before this night changed everything irrevocably forevermore. As those words hung heavily between us, all three stood frozen, caught up inside our own thoughts swirling chaotically around, unresolved feelings bubbling beneath surfaces long left untouched until now. Then suddenly came an unexpected sound, a phone ringing loudly from somewhere nearby, breaking through tension-filled silence surrounding us like thunder rolling across darkened skies overhead, signaling an approaching storm readying itself for impact. It took several seconds before anyone moved toward their phones, instinctively checking who might be calling or texting, unaware they were standing amidst emotional wreckage left behind after years spent building fragile foundations now crumbling beneath feet unable hold weight anymore. Mark reached into his pocket first, fumbling nervously while glancing back over shoulder towards me, uncertainly unsure whether answering would bring further complications or clarity needed moving forward. But then Michael's phone began ringing too, his expression changing instantly upon seeing who it was calling, drawing attention away from everything else happening around us right then. "Not now," he shouted angrily, cutting off whoever was trying to reach him while still holding on to remnants control, slipping slowly away, grasping tightly onto what little remained intact between us all. And just like that, a momentary distraction pulled focus away from confrontation looming ahead, leaving uncertainty hanging heavily over heads instead. In that brief instant, though, realization struck hard, leaving no room for doubt anymore. Choices made led directly toward consequences far beyond anyone could have anticipated beforehand. "Jessica," Michael began again, taking deep breaths, steadying himself, preparing launch into yet another round accusations, but suddenly stopped short, realizing nothing would change outcomes already set into motion by actions taken previously without thought given consequences, until far too late. Everything felt surreal, the world spinning faster around while standing still, trapped inside own minds, battling against truths refusing to be ignored any longer. Mark glanced sideways toward me, searching desperately find reassurance among chaos unfolding outside, control grasping tightly onto whatever remained left worth fighting for, even knowing odds stacked heavily against us both. Then came another sound, this time footsteps echoing down hallway leading toward room where we all stood, caught up midst unraveling lives, unable escape fate sealed long ago. And just when things seemed hopeless beyond repair, we heard door creak open wide, revealing stranger entering uninvited, bringing fresh air mixed dread along their presence. They stood silhouetted against harsh light spilling forth illuminating faces caught unaware, fear creeping back through veins coursing swiftly, reminding everyone present stakes raised higher than ever before. In one swift moment everything changed again. Confrontation previously inevitable shattered apart, replaced by something darker looming ahead, threatening consume entire lives tangled together, making escape impossible, remaining unseen, shadows lurking nearby waiting patiently, observe next moves taken next. Few moments deciding fate sealed forevermore.